by banning the organizations that are involved in nonviolent action in this country, the government has in effect opted for violence as the only way to resolving the problems of South Africa. In fact, they have not only opted for violence, but in banning peacemakers, the government has in fact shifted or is stifling peaceful means of change in this country and promoting violent means of change. Church leaders felt we have reached this type of crisis point where we need, in the light of the statement we made on the 25th of February and the march in Cape Town and the decisions at the convocation of churches the end of May, that we engage in effective nonviolent action. And secondly, that we feel not obliged to obey apartheid laws and unjust laws, decided last evening, firstly, that they would call upon Christians in this country not to participate in the elections, October elections, and that they should not avail themselves or stand for elections.
It will only be then, and only in those circumstances, that I'll consider participating. Even if some of them refuse for any reason to participate, I will consider participating. The main thing is that they need to be at large like all of us and exercise their options like all of us. And that is why it is also a complication that there are also other black organizations whose leaders are also detained under the state of emergency. It is because I so clearly see this is a vital necessity that I have said that I will not participate unless every other black leader is free to decide whether or not he or she wants to participate. I've repeatedly stated that I will not participate if Dr. Nelson Mandela, Mr. Zef Mutupi, and other political prisoners are not released from jail.
It's the quiet residential suburbs like Mayfair that are the prime targets of the proposed legislation. 6 years ago, the Supreme Court ruled that no one could be evicted on the grounds of race unless alternative accommodation was available. Since then, areas like this have become increasingly integrated. But not without protest from the powerful white right wing, who argued that the government's apparent inability to enforce group areas legislation was a sign of its weakness in dealing with the black majority. The official white opposition is still not satisfied.
We see Mr. President Botha is playing a double game again, trying to give minor concessions, whilst at the same time reassuring his supporters that he's not really giving concessions.
What they're simply doing is to signal to the white electorate that they're as racist in their attitude to housing as the HNP and the CP and other white right-wing groups, and in the process using blacks as pawns in a white political game.
Another bill before Parliament makes provision for the recognition of isolated grey or mixed areas, where, provided inhabitants agree, all races may live together. But this will apply to a tiny number of those living illegally in white areas, and for the bulk of the estimated 200,000 people who could be affected, the new legislation is harsh evidence that political reform is on the back burner.
It was the 16th fatal bomb attack in the Johannesburg region this year. The powerful blast ripped through a vehicle parked near a popular rugby stadium as thousands of fans headed home after the day's play. A man and a woman were killed by flying debris. Police estimates of the number injured continue to grow to at least 26. Nearby hospitals struggle to cope with the casualties from what appears to be the latest strike in a bombing campaign against urban targets. Limpet mine explosions on Thursday and Friday killed 2 suspected members of the banned African National Congress, alleged by police to have been planting the devices. Earlier on Thursday, a bombing attack on a Pretoria fast food restaurant injured 18 people. The largest bomb was in a waste bin in the suburban Rudaport Street, which killed 4 passers-by. Meanwhile, police spokesman Lieutenant Pierre Lou gave an account of the latest attack.
What we can officially say so far is that at least 2 people have died and at least 17 people were injured in this explosion. Another 17. Another very important fact that I must mention is that the explosion occurred exactly opposite a school bus which was parked in the street. Were any children injured? At this stage, we do not know whether any children have been injured, but so far 17 at least have been counted. And what is the cause of the explosion? The cause of the explosion was a car bomb which exploded in North Park Lane at about 17 minutes past 5 this afternoon.
To come then and launch an offensive, particularly in the region, the particular area which I discussed with Angola, and in respect of which they gave me the impression that it was in order. I think, I really believe that reasonable people all over the world now ought to do something about this kind of aggressiveness on the part of Cuba.
I think the state president should fire both and appoint other people who are serious about these negotiations and who will not be led by their noses by the Cubans. What upsets me particularly about the raid itself is the fact that the South African Defence Force was apparently, as we see it, caught napping.